And it's always a good chance just before the busy season just to retrain your own team and tell them, remember guys, the rules still apply and these are the important things we need to do. Hello, Richard, how are you?
Hello, Sterling. I'm fine. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Looking forward to Christmas. But as well as it's always the merry part, Richard, there are some challenges around Christmas, especially for those in hospitality. So if you're going to list a challenge that people have in the sector, what's number one for you? If you're running a restaurant, what would be your number one concern over Christmas?
Main problem would be overloading the refrigerators because we've got so much food in, and putting everything in the refrigerator resulting in cross-contamination. I think that's one of the main ones. And the other one would be not cooking to the correct temperature. That's 75 degrees centigrade, and checking it with a thermometer. So there's two there for you.
Okay, so you talked about refrigerators. So if you don't have enough refrigerator space, what would be your tip to people?
I think you've got to be very careful to make sure that you don't put food in the refrigerator that doesn't need to be there for safety. So things like drinks don't have to go into the refrigerator for safety. Things like chocolate, sweets, bread. I mean, you shouldn't put bread in the refrigerator, it's likely to go stale. So taking out what we call low risk foods, taking those out of the refrigerator. I think that's the main thing. And if necessary, in commercial businesses, they need to have additional refrigeration space at peak seasons if necessary, or peak times as necessary. So I think that's important.
Do you know, Richard, what I always think is the important thing is people, because it's so important at Christmas when your systems are stretched that you have people that know what they're doing, highly trained people, know the risks. And I think at Christmas, it's not unlikely you're going to take on temporary staff. And although you might have some good trained permanent staff, I always say to people, remember those temporary staff that are coming in, making sure they're trained, especially in the areas that they're controlling. And so many times when you mention refrigeration, things not being in the right place or left out for refrigeration when they should be, sometimes it's the temporary staff that aren't sure of those rules. So my tip is always make sure your temporary staff are trained. And it's always a good chance just before the busy season just to retrain your own team and tell them, remember guys, the rules still apply and these are the important things we need to do. You mentioned temperature. What would your advice be on temperature? I suppose because you've got big birds, you've got a lot of big turkeys, and some of them might come in frozen as well, Richard.
Exactly. I mean, thawing obviously is has to be done very carefully. So thawing safely, making sure that, as I've said, you use a thermometer. And I agree with you regarding the staff, but it's not just the training of the staff, it's the effective supervision. When you've got temporary staff, the managers and supervisors have to be really on the toes to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So there we are, folks. That's the bite-sized advice, things to think about over Christmas, whether you're at home. Certainly I'm the temporary staff when it comes to Christmas. I do a lot of temporary support for my wife, who's the main chef in our house. And the things to remember are think about storing your food properly, keeping high-risk foods at the right temperature, as Richard says. Be careful about cross-contamination in crowded refrigerators. Make sure that you retrain your staff, a great opportunity. And if you've got temporary staff, remember they're the people that are most likely to get things wrong. So ensure they're trained, ensure they're supervised. Some great advice. Thank you, Richard, and have a great Christmas and a safe one.
And you too. Have a great Christmas, everybody. Bye.
Bye.